Vengeful God, that's quite a song. Quite extravagant and absolutely massive and pretty megalomaniacal on my part. This one was born out of a school assignment actually. We had these assignments to write in the style of a songwriter you admire a ton, and for me obviously that was Chris Cornell. I was in my peak Soundgarden worshipping days back then. Still love him a ton. I learned 4th of July off of Super Unknown, which is still maybe my favorite song of all time. It's just the lowest, most massive, insane thing that ever existed, but then the melody comes in and suddenly it's gorgeous. And I learned that tuning, which is C, F, C, G, B, E. So you tune the 4th string down a whole step, and you tune your 5th and 6th strings, the A and E, you tune them down to F and C, which is down like 2 whole steps. So these strings are, you know, loose and bending and jangling and bouncing and fluctuating in pitch all the time. I learned the tuning for 4th of July because I really wanted to play and sing that song, and started messing around with it and found this cool intro part, which is the intro riff and the outro riff of the song by now. Sort of played around with that for a bit, loved that it started on a minor and ended on a major. I do that a lot. I played around with this riff for a while and I immediately knew what I wanted to sing about, because at the time my then girlfriend had a pretty bad familial relationship. It pissed both of us off to like no end, and it very much felt like a her versus them situation. This song is sort of me stepping into the situation, you know, not standing at the sidelines but becoming a part of whatever was going on, telling her that I have her back and that I'm on her side and that she's, you know, safe with me, and telling myself that, you know, I have the strength and the, you know, the willpower or whatever and the sharpness of wit to handle myself in whatever awkward adversarial situation was going to come up, and telling them to cool it and calm down and de-escalate because, you know, we were both pissed off up to here. It really leans into sort of the menacing aspects and the threatening aspects of it, and that was kind of because it was an assignment. I really wanted to write something that was as dark yet beautiful as something that Chris Cornell could write. Obviously this is a very long song, and I guess that comes from being, you know, 20 years old and actually setting out trying to write a sort of magnum opus, which is, in hindsight, a ridiculous idea because what the hell did I know? But surprisingly, it still holds up pretty well to me. As I said, I often don't like riffing, but I use riffs as transitional sections going back into the verse or into an extra chorus, you know, stuff like that. I riff in moderation in the middle of stuff to give some energy and then go back to just sort of written songs. Here, the riff was very much just an excuse to, you know, try doing a big rock singer scream thing and playing around with feedback like how Kim Thayil would do it on like Jesus Christ Pose, Soundgarden again. And then going into this big solo, which is very sort of 4th of July inspired to me, but also just keeps on climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. And I think the solo is like 1.5 minutes long. I'm extremely proud of that solo to this day. It was like 30 takes cut together, I think, because I was a terrible guitar player. But whatever's in there sounds really, really, really cool. I love it. So that's where you go, you know. I wanted it to be at like 110% the choruses, and then I wanted the riff to be at 115%, and then I wanted the guitar solo to be at 120, and have that keep going until like 150%. And, you know, the chances of winning drastically go down. The numbers don't lie and they spell disaster. And then at the time I was for the first time sort of getting into Nine Inch Nails, and I did a huge Hurt ripoff thing where the final chords of the song are the loudest sound in the known universe. I just love doing that. I don't often limit my mixes while mixing because, you know, that's for mastering. But I basically just put a limiter on it just to see how far I could push the guitars, and a lot of the scratchiness and the sort of gnarly going on in those guitar chords are just limiters crapping out because they're starting to distort absolutely everything, because at that point those guitars are pretty much everything in the whole mix, and that was just so fun to do. That was just hilarious. And after that we get a reprise, because as heavy as I think the song is, I think the harmonies and the parts going on, especially sort of the melodic guitar parts in the choruses and the pre-chorus, I think are all very pretty. So because it was so heavy, I wanted to reprise it as a really pretty thing. And on top of that, my friend Matteo Ianella, who's an insanely good keyboard player and played in the band for my final exam at the time, did such great sort of keys and ambient work on the whole thing. I wanted to sort of highlight that again and sort of have the whole record fade into nothing from this really beautiful and dramatic place instead of this really aggressive place, because in the end, I'm not that angry a person. I wasn't trying to make the next Downward Spiral or something. I just wanted it to be angry and then sort of mellow out again and level out again, because I'm very reflective in general. And then you have an EP, you know? Then you have 5 songs with a little reprise at the end. A lot of big choruses, usually pretty compactly written, short sections, but, you know, one final massive, huge rock epic at the end. That was where I wanted to go at that point. I first wanted to name the EP the Vengeful God EP, but that sounded a bit too pretentious even for me, so didn't do that. Bye.